Today is I think today's the 27th of March. Let me look here. Today's the 26th. Lucky me. I hope you can hear me well enough. I'm driving. I wanted to touch on a couple things that I don't know if you're aware of or you're not aware of, but I think it's important that people start to understand this. There are 4 regions. There's only a few regions in the world that feed everybody. Okay? We collectively kind of call these bread baskets. But let me tell you, in case I don't think most people realize this, but I'm just going to tell you how this is. And this is reality. If you don't believe me, look it up. There are only a few small regions in the great span of things in the world where mass amounts of cereal grains can be grown to feed the human population and our livestock. And these regions, I'm going to tell you where they are. Number one, there's one area, Ukraine is one place. Southeast Asia, that's called the Rice Bowl, in case you didn't know. Argentina, parts of Canada, and the Midwest of the United States. That is where the world's storable crops are grown. And what I mean by storable crops, you're talking about rice, wheat, corn, rice, wheat, corn, and soybean. Those are the main staple crops that you more or less kind of eat every day, regardless in one way or the other. Whether it's bread, that's the wheat, corn goes into just about every product you can think of as cornmeal or corn sweetener, or into the feed for livestock, particularly chickens and pigs. You don't have to worry about cattle, but it's chickens and pigs. And if you like eggs, if you like chicken, you're going to have a problem. So what am I trying to say here? Well, in these regions of the world, like in Southeast Asia, and so, as I said, in Southeast Asia, in that area is conducted for growing rice. There's a small area in the United States down in Alabama and Louisiana, Mississippi, you can grow rice. But the majority of it is grown in Southeast Asia. And these are storable crops. All of these things are storable crops. You can harvest them, dry them out, and they will last for a long, long time. Now, every one of these crops have its own growing needs. Okay? You cannot grow corn in vast quantities in areas that don't get a lot of water. You need summer rains for corn and soybean. The further west you go from the Midwest of the United States, the further west you get from Iowa and Nebraska, the less corn you can grow. You have to switch over to wheat. Wheat can grow in drier conditions. All of these things need fertilizer in some form or fashion. Why is that? Well, because we grow things, so you got to replenish the soil. Now, in order to really grow plants well, you only need 3 items. You need nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Those are the basic needs of a plant. They can grow really well with just those 3. You can produce crops with that. It's best if they have micronutrients like zinc and calcium, and it's best if they have some of that in the soil too for them to grow, but it's not necessary. It's better for us as far as living creature, animals that consume it, you get more minerals that way. But as far as the plant goes, it basically needs all those three things. So we need fertilizer for this. Now, how do we get fertilizer? Well, back in the day, you used to use animal shit. It didn't matter what it was, just how you aged it, and it was spread out. You can do that on a small scale, but you can't do that on a large scale. Believe it or not, at one time, particularly in Europe, it was pigeons. Pigeons supplied all the nutrients for the crops that were grown in a medieval system. Believe it or not, people don't realize that. And at one time, it was actually, you could actually use it as currency. But that's a whole other story. That was in France, if I recall. So where does all this fertilizer come from? Well, interesting enough, a good portion of it comes from Russia, because these fertilizers are produced from the fossil fuel that we know as natural gas. You can take natural gas and through chemical processes process it into fertilizer, just like the stuff you use for your worthless lawn. Those numbers on a bag of fertilizer for lawn feed, there'll be three numbers, like 16, 16, 16. That'll be nitrogen, potassium. I can't remember exactly how that goes. One number is nitrogen, one's potassium, and the other is phosphorus. That's what those three numbers mean. It's all derived from a petroleum-based product. Now, if it came down to it, you can actually make this stuff out of coal too, but it requires more processing. Now, the average person doesn't know this, but anybody that's involved in any type of the chemical sciences will understand this. This is why fossil fuels and the mining and processing of this stuff is important. So, if you didn't know, Russia produces, I think it's like 40% of this stuff, 40% of the natural gas and the petroleum products used to make nitrogen-based fertilizer and urea-based fertilizers. The United States, under the Biden administration, has put sanctions against Russia, which means we're not getting any petroleum-based anything from the Russians. And that is going to go to any nation that wants to do business with them. They have to honor those sanctions. So if you have Argentina growing wheat, Ukraine, which is already out of the picture, folks. Ukraine's out of the picture. It's March. The growing season has started. And what's going on in there, don't expect any food coming out of the Ukraine. And then you're going to go to Canada. So you have Argentina, Canada, United States that needs this stuff. There has already been a shortage of this due to supply chain issues. And you can find articles, news articles on this going back to December of this past year, before anything happened with Russia. So now this exasperates the problem. What they're not telling you is there's going to be food shortages. Do you understand that? I've been alive for 57 years. I've never walked into a grocery store and seen a shortage of anything made from wheat, corn, or soybean. What happens when you have a shortage of this? Well, number one, it's going to affect the price. Have you seen the price of these stuff lately? I was at the store yesterday. I went to Walmart. A 6-roll package of paper towels, Walmart brand, which is cheap shit, was $20 for 6 rolls. I couldn't believe it. Every time I go to the store to buy something, it's more and more. I buy a small amount of stuff because I don't have kids to feed. It's just me and my wife, and she's the one that's eating more varied stuff than I am. I can live on eggs, and I got chickens crapping out 40 eggs a day. I can live on eggs. I'm not somebody that has to have a wide variety of food to survive. I love food, but when it comes down to it, I can eat out of a garbage can. unlike my other fellow Americans who probably won't stoop to that level. But my best friends will tell you that I have eaten out of garbage cans, and I have, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. The point is, if you have a family and you have children, are you going to eat out of a garbage can? Probably not. So what can we expect? Well, you're going to find out real soon when they start planting. And let me tell you something, corn is a heavy feeder. You need a lot of feed for fertilizer for corn. You need that. We had a bad harvest across the board last year because it was so damn dry. We had a bad harvest in the United States, particularly in the Midwest last year. So they're hoping that this year's going to be a good season, but now they're already knowing that they're not going to have the fertilizer. So they're already predicting food shortages. And this wonderful dolt of a president we have even admitted it. Now, if he admits it, it's going to be a lot worse than what you believe. So before things get worse, I would really, really recommend you get at least, I would recommend 6 months supply of food for your family. You figure out what is the most meager amount that you can get by on today. If it's a bowl of rice, go and get it. Because the prices are going to start going through the roof once the planting season is underway, because they're going to, everything gets figured into this, folks. We as a consumer, look, if you're middle class like I am, you're the one that's going to bear the brunt of this, because people on food stamps, it's not going to change for them. Nothing is going to change for them. They're still going to get their food stamps. The people that have lots and lots of money, they're still going to be able to afford caviar and Kobe beef. But the rest of us who just kind of live like normal people, we're the ones that bear the brunt of this. And if you're a normal person, you better listen to me. If you're some liberal wackadoodle, you better listen to me. Whether you like me or not, you better put some food aside, because I'm telling you, it's going to hit you this year. I have chickens at home. I watched the price of chicken feed in the last 3 months go from $8.99 a 50-pound bag to $15.99 a 50-pound bag. That's now. Now I want you to think about that. You don't think that's going to have an effect on the price of poultry? And I know very few people watching this understand how our agriculture system works. The chickens that you eat every single day are only 6 weeks old. Believe it or not, they're only 6 weeks old. They're not genetically modified. They are bred like a dog. They are a breed of chicken that's bred, just like they have different breeds of dogs, you got different breeds of chicken. When you eat that big chicken breast, look at the breastbone. Half of it is cartilage and half of it is bone. The reason half of it is cartilage is because it's a young bird. It's only 6 weeks old. Those chickens we eat get so big so fast that if they mature completely, they can't breathe properly, because the lungs of a bird is not like the lungs of a mammal. And if they make it past 6 weeks of age and it's 90 degrees out, they suffocate to death because they can't breathe. They're too heavy. It has nothing to do with being genetically modified. It has nothing to do with hormones. That's all nonsense. But the point is, to get that size in 6 weeks, they eat a lot of food. They eat about a pound of food a week, so they're putting out a pound of flesh a week. They're converting food to flesh ratio is really high with them. My point is, there are a lot more people in control of what goes on in this world that are a lot smarter than I or you. Do not think for 5 minutes that this isn't planned. Because what it's all about one thing: to bring destabilization to the world. Nothing will destabilize the world more than food riots. All of this has been planned. The pandemic, the supply chain issues, all of this has been planned, and the end goal of this is to usher in a one world government, a one world currency, because they're going to take it. The idea is people will be clamoring, save us, save us, save us. We'll do anything. We will sacrifice our firstborn on an altar. We'll cut his heart out to save us. You don't think that is reality? I'm telling you, look through human history. Look through human history. Let me explain some of you. The reason Hitler came to power, the only reason Hitler came to power is because those people needed a wheelbarrow of their paper money to buy a loaf of bread. You don't think this is true? Look it up. They needed a wheelbarrow of money to buy a loaf of bread. It was only good to burn in their furnaces to keep them warm. That's what we're doing, because we have a government that has been spending money that we can't back with gold. It's all about to bring us to our knees. Now, we're going to have food shortages. You better make plans. You better do it now. Fortunately, I have a friend of mine that left me a year's supply of stuff, from vitamins and rice, all vacuum sealed in Mylar bags, for a supply for a year. And I thought he was crazy when he did it. Maybe he wasn't so crazy after all. The point being, you're going to need, I would say, at the minimum, a 3-month supply to get through a growing season, but it wouldn't hurt to have a year, because you got to get through 1 year's supply, at least to offset your. This is not a joke, and I'm not an alarmist. I don't normally say this. I am the most, believe it or not, I'm the most rational person you could ever meet. Ask my family. Ask my sister. If anybody doubts things, I'm the number one doubter. And I have some, and there's some, if I'm telling you about things, it's because I know about it on a personal level. It's not a joke. But I'm the most rational person, actually, any you could ever meet. To those people who know me well, they'll admit this. They'll tell you. This administration, everything that is coming out of their mouth is a lie. Everything is coming out. They said this about Trump, and that's nonsense. Just pay it. I'm just going to name a couple of them. Biden says, don't worry about the inflation. It's transitory. That's bullshit. That's already proven to be a lie. He said, we're going to put sanctions on on Russia as a deterrent for them to invade. Now he just said, I never said that. Look it up. There's plenty of news feeds from all your favorite news sources to show you what he said versus what he said yesterday versus what he said today. He said, I am never going to make masks mandatory. Guess what? He did. Everything this guy, he says, he's speaking lies out of the corner of his mouth. He lies about everything. And it's all I have yet somebody tell me where Trump lied. Everything that guy said and everybody laughed at is all come to pass. Didn't he say under Biden you're going to have a disaster? You'll have $7 gas. I'm paying $5 a gallon of gas. And I drive for a living. You don't think that hits me in the pocketbook? And in the state I live, the taxes for this is through the roof. And now the love. I'm going to get on a tangent, and I'm going to go out of my mind if I keep going with this. My whole point of this for 18 minutes was just to warn you that there is a food shortage that's going to be coming, and part of it has to do with supply chain, and the other part is because of the fertilizer. And here's the other part: when the cost of go into a store and see how much if you think I'm full of it. Go into a store and see how much grass seed costs. Just go and see how much it costs. I don't know if you know how much that normally costs. It's normally pennies per pound. Go in and see how much it costs now. That will show you what the harvest for grass seed, the shit that you grow on your worthless lawns, go and see what that costs now. Go and look at the price of the fertilizer for that stuff. It's going to get worse because not only because it has to do with the policies of this nation, it has to do with supply chain issues, and it also has to do with a policy. Part of the policy is because, let's get away from this whole fossil fuel stuff. I mean, the clothing that you wear, this shit, anything with a polyester blend, thank a fossil fuel for that. Because where do you think polyester comes from? It's time that you start to educate yourself about the world we live in, where we get our food, how it's produced, where we get our clothing, how it's produced. It's time to do that. Very few of you are going to want to wear wool, and none of you are going to want to wear fur, even though it's as renewable as it comes. And cotton is wonderful, but cotton by itself is not the most durable thing. Get up to date on how we produce things and how it gets from the field to the store to your home. Pay attention to this. Start paying attention to the policies of the people that we elect affect our lives and how it gets to your home. Right down to how you heat your home. And if you've seen how much it costs to heat your house, I'm not even getting on this. All right, just listen to what I say, pay attention, prove me wrong. Till next time.